front of this computer. There you go. Now it's recording. Sorry. Always forget that. Very important part. All right. So went to the State Water Project tour last beginning of this month, end of last month, and it was cool. We left at 7. Got to Long Beach Airport 6:45 in the morning, and we flew up to Sacramento. And from Sacramento, we took a bus, hour and a half, to Lake Oroville, and we checked out the spillway. Yes, that Lake Oroville. And this tour was paid for by Metropolitan Water District, as well as the West Basin Water District. In LA County, there are 88 cities, and there are roughly 200 different types of water districts and water purveyors. They overlap. There's many various types. Water doesn't just get to your faucet through 2 or 3 purveyors of water. It comes to your faucet from multiple different sources, and all those sources, either from groundwater, State Water Project, or MET, recycled water. It's many various ways, and there's a lot of people who get their hands on those. What I learned from water is that water is power, and power being every definition you want to attach to that is electricity. It is 8 pounds a gallon. So when you start moving water at 1 mile an hour, 2 miles an hour, 3 miles an hour, every gallon is worth 8 pounds, 8.5 pounds, right in there, 8 pounds. So think how much weight that is. Water is legal right. I'll go over in a little bit how legal rights happen. Water happened in California, how it's different than the rest of the country. Just a real brief overview, and of course the current water situation with the amount of water that we currently use and what we use it for, who has access to it, access rights, and the 5 different levels of water. For instance, the king rights going down to people who are just buying water off the State Water Project. So this picture right here I'm having in front of us is underneath the Oroville Dam. If you look up Lake Oroville, it's the largest dam tallest dam in the United States. It is the crown jewel of the State Water Project. It has a massive watershed. It has impacted flooding. It was built for multiple reasons, flooding reasons. It was power generation, delivery of water throughout California. This whole water project was conceived in the 1960s and built and finished in 1968. So think about what that takes. Started in the early 60s, conceived, bonded, engineered, and built all in the 60s. Something like this can't ever be built again. There's too many interests, too much land involved, too much new law, environmental review. We haven't had a major reservoir built in the state of California probably 50 years. A new one came online about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, Lake Pyramid, I want to say it was. I'm not sure, but it wasn't a major reservoir. And we'll get into the reservoirs in a few minutes, what different types of reservoirs. So this plaque is about 50 feet underneath the power plant at Lake Oroville. And I wasn't allowed to take any photos of Lake Oroville or the power plant underneath, but I did Google for you. This is the actual rock wall. What you see on the right-hand side is the actual rock wall that they dug into. They tunneled into a massive, massive cavern. And this is what it looks like. Oh, that's the Edmondson pumping plant. Hold on. No, never mind. Hold on. That's the Edmondson pumping plant. Let me see if I get you the picture of inside of. I had it ready to go, and of course, 1 second. It's fascinating. There are 6. What is this? The Hyatt power plant at Lake Oroville. Sorry, excuse me. I actually had this image ready to go, and for some reason I did not. Here it is. That it? That is it. I think this is it. Yep. This is what it looks like underneath. Whoops. Right. And this is all underground. You can look it up online. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I believe there's 6 generators, and this is the tunnel that we entered in right here. This goes to the outside, and we parked right over here, and this picture is right over here on the corner. It is a massive, massive cavern that they have all of these generators in, and it produces about 800 megawatts of power, I believe. And it's important. Power, like I said earlier, is important because water is power. It takes a lot of power to move water, and they have to generate power for that. They take off the power grid a lot of power, but they also put on the power grid a lot of power. They actually can control the power grid with as much power as they can put on and take off. Part of this project, you'll see that it was created to act as a battery reserves. In the 1960s, they realized that reservoirs high up can store power. So when Lake Oroville was originally designed, Lake Oroville would let water go during the day to put power onto the electrical grid, and it would go into this massive forebay. And then at night, they would pump the water back up into Lake Oroville, and you actually get a very small amount of reduction of loss. And they pump the water back up with the excess electricity that's being generated off the grid. So they had, in effect, an ability to manage electrical flows and water flows. So this is headed up to the infamous site that is this right here. We actually saw the spillway being run. It was opened up. It was releasing water. They were getting ready for a big storm. This big storm that we flew into and drove into was Thursday morning. So we left on Thursday morning. We didn't get back until Saturday night. It was a massive blizzard that happened at the end of last month. And it was not an El Nino event. It was an Arctic event. We flew into Sacramento. It was still kind of clear skies, a little bit cloudy. We got to Lake Oroville with clouds are coming in. And at this point in time, halfway through our bus trip through there, it was starting to rain. By the time we left, it was pouring rain. And the storm literally followed us all the way down. And you can see here by this little video how much water is actually flowing through the spillway. It's a lot. It's powerful, and it created a lot of damage. Lake Oroville, the emergency spillway that overtopped, I asked a very simple question of how come we had this problem with the spillway? Had we never thought about if the emergency spillway would be used? And they basically came back and said, we never used it, so we never thought about inspecting it or looking at the engineering behind it and saying, well, we've never used it, we don't need to use. Well, why would we really look at it and spend the money on it? The State Water Project has a phenomenal amount of projects that are happening every single year because of the demands of the water system. We got to replace things, and so that was never on their higher priority list. So to give part of the tour was to check out the dam and the spillway. Part of the tour here was an educational process at Lake Oroville. They supply the 8th largest economy in the world. So California is the 5th largest economy in the world. The State Water Project provides enough water to power or feed the 8th largest economy in the world, including the farms, Southern California, San Joaquin Valley. And that, if you think about that, that's huge. That's massive. And this was built in the 1960s. So here's a great graph on the affordability of water. An acre foot is a term of how much water. I forgot exactly how many. I had a great line. I forgot how much. It's hundreds of homes, thousands of homes, and this graph shows the amount of water it costs to deliver an acre foot of water. Right over here on the right-hand side, you see State Water Project. This is $1,400 to $250 per acre foot, depending upon where you are on the project. So if you're near the Delta, it's really low, $250 an acre foot. If you're in Southern California, San Diego, for instance, you're at $1,400 an acre foot. Water conservation, this is what they save there. Those are saving costs. So instead of using, so that's what it would cost. So in having all of these systems like paying for low flow toilets, paying for turf removal, that's what it is equivalent to. Stormwater capture, $5,000 an acre foot to $600 an acre foot. Stormwater capture is really important because it can be really expensive. Measure W, which passed a couple of years ago, converts our current flood control system. So in LA Basin, when we built our LA Channel river system and storm control, flood control, stormwater, it was get the water out as fast as you can out to the ocean. Well, now we realize with our water tables that we're at 30 feet or at surface levels, now we're at 100, 150 feet down. We need to replenish those reservoirs. And in order to do that, we have to rebuild our infrastructure. We have to build stormwater capture. We have to build infiltration systems in places. So that's the cost it takes, anywhere between $5,000 to $600 per acre foot, depending upon where you are. Recycling water, so that means you are taking water from a water treatment plant and you are converting it to one of the many various types of uses of recycled water. So we do not have what's going from wastewater directly into our regular water system. It has to go through the nature, through our aquifers first. But this number here, $1,000 a square foot to $3,500 a square foot, that's used for industry. For instance, golf courses. For instance, industrial plants for creating manufacturing goods for oil, production of oil and petrochemicals. And of course, on the far left-hand side, per square foot, acre foot, $2,500 to $4,700 for desalination. Everyone thinks, oh, desalination is the answer. Well, look at that. Here's your answer right now. This is how much it costs to create an acre foot of water. This is how much more expensive it is. Basically doubled at the State Water Project. And this is why conservation is so important. Let's see here. So, all right. All right, before I get to the next slide, almonds. We're gonna go over almonds in a minute. I always laugh at conservation, and I like to say and think, why are we? If you look at the total graph percentage of how much water residential uses, lawns, whatever you use in your household, wash your cars, whatever it may be in your property, it's a small percentage of the grand total. And what's important about that is through all the conservation that we've done through the years, agriculture has gone up. And agriculture has gone up because of agriculture uses in the San Joaquin Valley. So I'm going to show something here. And residential has used the same amount of water since the late 80s, early 90s. I want everyone to look right here. 2010, 2009, 2010. We were roughly using 4.75 acre feet of water. Right here. That was agricultural uses. Since then, it peaked in 2015-ish, but it's gone back up. About 9 to 10 acre feet, millions of acre feet of water, or billions, so 2 billion, 4 million acre feet, so over 9 million acre feet of water. So that means agriculture in the San Joaquin Valley has more than doubled the amount of acre feet that they've consumed in water in just over 10, 12 years. And that comes from agriculture, such as almond production and expansion of agriculture. It's a big number. So moving on, this is, let's see, you can't see this. All right, so as we went along, We went through the Sacramento Delta, and let me see if I get these photos right here. So every day our mornings started off at around 7 a.m. and we started off at 7 a.m. in Sacramento at a hotel. And this speaker right here on the right hand side, he was from the Metropolitan Water District, and he's worked in the Delta and delivered water and worked on water projects. He's an engineer for 40 years, 50 years, a long time. And we're talking about the Delta smelt and the Delta here. So before we start going into the Delta, we had an education, so to speak. These are one of the gates in the Delta. So one of the reasons why they have gates is because of salinity. The water that comes in from San Joaquin Valley is very salty from the mountains. The water that comes in from the north, so Lake Orville, Lake Shasta, is not as salty, but the sweetest water, the freshest, cleanest water comes in directly from the east behind Sacramento Mountains. All this water intermixes into the Delta and then goes out eventually out to the ocean. Now, in the Delta, they have to manage the water and the salinity and where all of this goes, all the water goes, and manage the flows, because the fish, whether it's the smelt or the salmon, can only handle so much salt water or salt in the water. So there's also invasive species that are in there that eat the baby smelt and eat the salmon. And these dikes here, these locks, prevent those types of invasive species from going into certain areas, thereby protecting the smelt and protecting this baby salmon. These gates, everything is remotely controlled. The whole state water project is pretty much remotely controlled from the main operations in Sacramento. So we stopped off at a place called Break Point, and this right here is a dredging bucket. Now, the Sacramento Delta today is up to 30 feet below sea level. And why is that important? That's because there's dikes everywhere. And the reason why it's below sea level today, just so everyone understands, Stockton has a major port. They ship concrete into Stockton. They ship out goods like, grains, agriculture. They ship goods into Stockton. Stockton is a couple 100 miles inland. It's only 45 minutes south of Sacramento. Sacramento has a port. And what happened was, after the Chinese started building finished building the railroads, they took the Chinese workers and they needed new workers, new jobs, and so primarily the Chinese went to the Sacramento Delta, and they employed them to start building by hand the levees, to start building up these islands, to start farming on these islands, because these islands are highly organic, highly nourishing materials. Well, in the mid 1910s, 1920s, right in there, 1910s, they created this bucket, and this bucket came through and mechanized, made everything mechanical to actually start dredging these pathways, dumping the dirt onto these levees. And there's three types of levees. There's federal levees, which are held to federal standards. There are state levies had according to state standards, which are far less than federal standards. And then the final ones are the private levies. The private levies are held by the individual farmers. Levees are holding water back. At first, they were created to hold the water and create these islands to do farming. Now they're in place to prevent the water from coming in and flooding the farmland, because the land is literally sinking, and in some areas a couple inches per year. What's happening is the soil is literally evaporating. You can see these reeds here. You see these reeds back here behind this ranger. These reeds back here, you see all these. This is what's called peat, creates peat, and these reeds build up. And as this material hits the CO2 or regular atmosphere, it literally goes into vaporizes into thin air. So by us farming those areas and not allowing these grasses to grow, the ground is literally sinking beneath everyone's feet. And it's becoming a real big problem. And there are some fault lines there. That's why we have this major tunnel project that the state and Metropolitan Water District and the state wants to have a tunnel that goes all the way around the delta. And they have that because, well, you got all these fault lines as well. What happens if these levees break? Everyone heard the line, I drove my Chevy levee, but the levee was dry down on the bayou. What other CCR song you could think of? Well, that all had those Creedence Clearwater Revival. They were from Lodi, California, and they were singing about the Sacramento Delta. And this is where it's all coming from. All these farmlands that you see here, all these different tributaries and lakes, and there's a tremendous amount of wildlife and fish and birds, ecosystems like you wouldn't believe, and a huge amount of produce that's grown here. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but there is a percentage here. It means 1 acre of Delta farmland produces the equivalent to 2 acres somewhere else in San Joaquin Valley. The water's right there. The soil is highly dense and nutritious. I'm not sure exactly the percentage, but you can grow a lot more crops in this area than you can in other areas because of the type of soil. But it comes at a cost, which means we are losing our soil. So this is a map, and this is really cool. This is a breaker point. This is really, for those of us that are really fighting for a park down the wetlands down at AES site. This particular park is a coastal reserve, it's a reserve within the scope of the Delta, and this is on the ground. And the ground actually is made here. This here shows you where I believe this is Sacramento, the American River here on top. American River here, Feather River coming up here on the other side, and they come into the Delta this way. This shows you the outlines of the city of Sacramento. And oops, I didn't download the other photos. Maybe I did. Let me see if I can get one more photo. Oh, here it is. So this is a walkable map, so to speak. And you can see it's about 25 feet across, 30 feet across in its longest part, about 20 feet on the other side. And it has the mountains on one side, has a delta here in the middle, has San Francisco and the bay way over there. And it's a walkable map. You could really see. And if you pour water here on this side, you could watch the water run in these little canals down to down eventually to sea level, which is all the way over here on the top right hand side where those people are standing. It's a really cool map. So the river was high, and the river was high because there was a lot of rain here in the last few days in Sacramento. Normally not that high. This is the ranger that was showing us what was going on in the Delta and how big and massive Delta is and its expanse. This is on the left-hand side. You can see one of the old dredges on the left-hand side that's fallen over. The wind farms on the far right-hand side over here, and another dredging ship. And this is all in the Delta area. It's part of the reserves, and they have a lot of educational facilities there. Here you can see here at the highest level warm part in 2017, this whole area was flooded. That's because of all of both the king tides as well as the water that was coming in from the El Nino that we had in 2017. It rose above this entire dock area. So I don't know if I have a photo that shows it, but it was pretty dramatic. And the Delta flushes itself in the rainy cycles, in the rainy years. So from the Sacramento Delta, we went to San Luis Reservoir. And San Luis Reservoir was built as a battery and a reservoir. There is no water in the San Luis Reservoir here that comes from tributaries or rivers. It is completely filled by the state water project. So the water that comes from Lake Shasta and Lake Oroville ends up here, and they treat the water the same as they do at Lake Oroville. So the water goes in and they pump it up at night, and during the day they'll release it into the forebay. It's on the left-hand side here, and by releasing it, they can generate power. And they let some of the water go into the canals, and then at night they'll reverse the pumps and pump the water back up again with the excess electricity that's on the power grid. It's a very well balanced system. They plan on raising this by 10 feet, which will give them another about 10% in total capacity, which is a pretty significant amount. They hold around 2 million acre feet at this particular reservoir. This reservoir was completed on June 18th, 1969. And the State Water Project, it is one giant working system. So when they release water on Lake Shasta and Lake Oroville, it goes down into the Sacramento Delta, and then they pump on the other side of the Sacramento Delta. They pump water out into a massive holding area. And from that point in time, when they start pumping back water into the canals, it starts its pathway either to San Luis Reservoir or continues all the way down the San Joaquin Valley to the Edmonston pumping plant, which we'll get to. If you guys have ever been to San Luis Reservoir, Pacheco Pass, I would highly recommend it. It's kind of cool. It's a great view. It's on its way. You can go up the 5 freeway. It's a 152 right by Centinela, and then you hook a left going east towards Gilroy. Garlic capital of the world. I've gone by 1,000 times, and it is really, really interesting, actually. The reservoir, when we were there, was at 63% capacity, which is not very high. It was below average. And they don't really know why. They didn't ask the lady there to know why we were below average. I'm assuming it's because we had an extremely dry, below average fall and early winter, and our rainstorms didn't start coming in until January, end of January. Some really big ones happening in early March. In fact, that we were just at average at the end of February. Just got there with a big rainstorm, and when that big blizzard came through, we became above average. So as we were leaving, the storm was following us, and off the right-hand side down here in the corner, you can see the San Luis forebay right over here. And that water is temporary holding water. It will actually end up back into the reservoir itself. So it was kind of cool to see a rainbow as we left. So before we get to the Edmonston pumping plant, we headed down south in our little bus. This is real quick here. Yeah, okay, so we're heading down the 5 freeway. These are grapes, and these are, I believe, table grapes, not wine grapes. The next thing we checked out was a almond and pecan or almond factory that would process these almonds. In 2005, this California produced 40 million tons of almonds statewide. 40 million tons of almonds statewide. Today, 2 years ago, last year, almonds hold roughly in bins like this outside or inside, preferably inside cooler environments, for 2 years. So they have a 2-year worth of stock that they can go up and down on. So they have a big year like 2023. They produced 3.2 billion tons of almonds. And RPAC here gave us a tour of both their old processing facility and their new processing facility. And think about how much more water that requires to grow that many more almonds. Just so you understand, one almond is roughly 3.8 gallons, plus or minus, depending upon whose number you want to use. It's a little bit of a misnomer because all parts of that almond will be used. So you have the center nut that we eat or turn into almond milk, and then it has an outside nut. So this is what the almond looks like right here. This is actually, I believe this is actually after it's shelled once. There's 3 layers to the shell. And the excess shell, excess parts of it gets mixed in with cow feed, and cows eat it. So when you hear cows, it takes 800 gallons or whatever to create a pound of red meat. Well, that's not really true because the entire animal gets used. Same as with an almond. All parts of the almond get used. This particular facility, vast majority of their final product gets shipped outside of country. We supply 100% of the world's almonds from California. And this company, RPAC, sends a lot of their almonds to India. And like I said, there's 3 shells to, you'll see it here, 3 shells to an almond. And let me see if I can get to it. Go right ahead. No, I can't. Let me see if I can find it. There's 3 parts to the almond. There's the outside part, which they take off, and then there's an inner shell, and then there's the almond inside that. That, just by taking off the far outside shell, they'll take that and they'll package it up and they'll send it over to India. And by hand, India will take those almonds and take the next layer off by hand to give people jobs, and then they will sell those almonds in packaged nuts, in packages. These guys, this is what the shells look like, and you'll see this if you go down the 5 freeway. You'll see a ton of these, and they've cropped up through the years. They process almonds throughout the year, so they have a major processing time from September through November, right in there. But then, or August, September through November. But then they'll store almonds and then start processing them throughout the year, so they have continuous work throughout the year. These machines, this is what the finished almond packaging looks like. And just so everyone understands, less than 1% of that, what you see there, cannot be, or most people that buy almonds on a manufacturing or wholesale level, less than 1% of the total weight cannot be almonds. It means shells or dirt or any type of outside foreign material. It can only be almonds. This is a big facility. This is their old facility that they built. This is their old facility. You see all these almonds. We all wear hair nets. Really cool facility. These are all full. Every single one of these are full. All these QR coded things are there. This is a Portuguese family. This is the process. They have fumigation here. As soon as the almonds come in, they get fumigated. There's 2 types of fumigation process they use, because when they export these almonds, they don't want the countries taking them in, or other states don't want to have little bugs. And all these almonds have some sort of worms or bugs inside of them. This is a new part of the factory that they're building, millions and millions of dollars. They got a really low interest rate a couple of years ago. They're just finishing it up now. They started construction. This Portuguese family this company is owned, it's family owned, and they have multiple different partners. But this gentleman here gave us a tour. It's very open, very nice. This is the most advanced almond producing sorting facility in the world. And they use a heavily used technology. And you see there's a guy up here, and you can't see it really well, but he's using dry ice to clean this new machine. It's all brand new machines. It's all done via computer nowadays. So this is millions of dollars worth of equipment. He let us take photos of this side, but then the actual packaging side, he would not let us take photos in. Basically, to go into a retail almond package, it goes through one of these cracking and sorting facilities 3 to 4 times. And it's really impressive. You can see all these different air ducts. It's a very dusty process, as one could imagine. And they have, as you can see here, millions of tons of almonds stacked, ready to go to be processed. And the coordination behind it is absolutely immense, from testing to storage to tracking. It is absolutely amazing. This is our farmer right here. He told us a lot about what it takes to grow almonds. And, farmers, they don't just grow almonds, they grow a bunch of other stuff as well. These are the fields, they're in full bloom. These little white things down here are bees. Bees, each one of these packages here is $200. So one beehive is $200 to rent. On the normal market, it's $20 to $30, $40 maybe at most. And the commercial beehive people take advantage of this season, which is about 3 weeks long, that the bees need to come through and fertilize all the pollen. But the joke is on the beehive commercial bee people, because they have now strains of almonds that you have one male pollinator and amongst a bunch of the trees, and they will pollinate all the other trees. So they're getting away, creating varieties of almonds that no longer require bees to become the pollinator for to create all the almonds. And is absolutely gorgeous. If you've ever been up there this time of year, it is really, really cool to see. It's only for a couple of weeks of the year where they're growing the almonds. So that leaves us to the Edmondson pumping plant. So to give a quick idea of the Edmondson pumping plant, the pumping plant has not been recreated in the entire world as it has been anywhere else. It pumps water vertically 2,000 feet. And the amount of pressure it creates is nearly 1,000 psi. So 1,000 pounds per square inch. And I will show you here. We weren't allowed to take photos inside, but if you look at the big lift, State Water Project Edmondson Pumping Plant, they used to give tours, but since 2001, September 11, 2001, no more tours of any of these facilities. We had to go through background checks and all that good stuff. This is the forebay. We'll show you the photo here. This is the discharge in charge line that they're going up. So it's going 2,000 feet straight, not straight up, vertically up. At the very top, there's a surge tank, and it goes in this pipe, and it ends up here at the top of the hatch-piece, which it goes down, and then it splits off, one to LA, and then one side to San Diego. And this is the pumping room. They have 2 pumping rooms. They have 7 pumps on either side, and these are still the original pumps. They have redone some of the coils and done some maintenance work on them, but they're still the original pumps from 1968. This is the inside of the connector where the valve sits. So before I get to that, let me just show you something here. So this is the bottom of the power plant or pumping plant right down here, right here. And it pumps up this grade all the way up to this tank up here, and then it goes in pipe across the hatch-a-piece. When they turn just one of these pumps on, it is a very well coordinated process that takes them a day or 2 days or a week to plan, because if they were to just simply turn one of the pumps on, they would brown out the entire electrical infrastructure within the San Joaquin Valley. That's how much power it takes. So they have a multiple stepping system in order to get these pumps online, how they generate the power. It's really fascinating. Not going to get into it. I'm just going to say that they start off with a little bit of power. Right here is the switching station, you can see right here. And they start generating more and more power, and it creates more and more power. It's all done with magnetism, and then it creates a lot more power, and then they engage the pump. When they engage the pump, then they switch over to the electrical grid, and they start taking power from the electrical grid. It is tremendous amount of engineering that it took to build these pumps. This is where the pumping starts right here. And this is actually the pumping station. I don't know if I actually think I have it here. This is the forebay. All the water goes in. It goes down about 30 feet too, I might add. So this is one of the pumps. And there's 4 layers of the pump. This is the this is the pump intake on top. This is where the forebay is on top. and it goes down, and there's 4 different levels, and it gets output through this bottom right here. And this is when they were installing the last of the pumps. So some people might be inquisitive and saying, well, wait a second here. If you're pumping water up this pipe and you turn the pump off, doesn't the water come back down? Yes, you are correct. So that's where the 1,000 pounds per square inch comes into play. This pump gets turned on, and there's a valve between the pipe that goes up the hill and this pump, which is a connector between this and the forebay. And that valve is off. So they start this pump, and they start spinning it, and they start creating pressure. And once they get to the 1,000 pounds, what they need in order to push this pump water up to the top, that's when they open up the valve. And then the water can start pumping through all the way and going up to the top. So you probably ask yourself, well, when they turn it off, the water comes straight down. That's true, except they don't turn off the pump. They close the valve. And every time they turn on one of these pumps, or they turn off one of these pumps, they have alarm bells within this massive place. Just so everyone knows, this is a massive pumping station. There's only 1 or 2 operators there one time. There's about 10 different maintenance people at any one point in time. But they have alarm bells going on through the entire facility everywhere when they turn off or turn on one of these pumps. I was there when they turned off 2 of these pumps. When they turned off the pump, when they closed the valve, you could hear it and you can feel the ground shake when the valve was closing into the closed position, because the water was pushing itself back down, and you had the water pushing itself up into. And so they'd seal it and close it, and then you could just, boom, you can hear it, all of a sudden the noise went away. And only then could they turn off the pumping, this pump. So it was an impressive, a very, very impressive tour. Learned a lot with this. There's a lot more that I could go over with this, but I'm not, because we got a bunch of other stuff to go over. So if anyone has any questions on that, throw it out there. I mean, check my thing. And if anyone wants to know, in 10 minutes, there's a SpaceX launch, just so you know, in Vandenberg. It's nice weather. Should you be able to see it? So let me check my comments here real quick and go on to the next subject if we don't have anything. Let's see here. I don't think I have anything. No comments there. Oops. Okay. So that brings me into that. If no one has any questions, I see any hands raised or whatever else, that's fine by me. We'll get going to the next item. Let's see here. Yesterday, or day before yesterday, we photos out. The base of Zuliger Park. Look for those photos now. Where are they? Oh, there they are. I don't. Probably did. Maybe I don't. Base of Zuliger Park. We put in the 10th historic marker in place, and it's where the old City Hall and fire station library was at. And I knew I had it here. Sorry. Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. Share my screen. Taking a little bit longer. Oops. Jean, you had a question? You have your hand up?
Yeah. I meant to say this before, but
muted.
did they discuss
Jean?
at all on the water, your water tour about security or safety of our water supply?
Oh, I'm sorry. Say it again. First my volume was down. Say it.
Did
Sorry.
did they discuss at all security or safety of our water supply? Was that at all included in any of that tour?
A lot. So we had to do background checks for all of us that went along on this tour. People are not allowed into the pumping stations anymore. Either power generation or pumping stations or any of the places that we went to. They have visitor centers. Everywhere I went to has a visitor center except for the Edmiston pumping plant, and which is really unfortunate because it is extremely interesting. There's multiple levels of security in a lot of these areas. You can't just walk in. They have security guard gates, and they have locked areas, and they have multiple levels. Now, even if somebody were to get in, they'd have to actually know what they're doing in order to mess something up. It's all really complicated, but yes, since September 11, 2001, security has been a big deal. They have not talked about other aspects of the security. All right. Any other questions for anyone? All right. Share my screen again. So this is the old historic marker that was placed on Monday morning at 10:30 in the morning. It is at the base of Zuliger Park, Old City Hall, Library, and Firehouse. We have one down at the Riviera at the end of the Esplanade, down at the roundabout there, right where the old hotel Burnouts used to be, Riviera House. And this is one of 10. We have one couple in North Redondo, a couple in South Redondo, and they're really cool to check out. You'll see, I didn't realize that the old City Hall was there and the old library was there, but is now filled with residential units down there. And it was really cool to see. We had the fire department that was there. We had a historical commissioner there, one former historical commissioner, the guy who actually made the sign. Public Works that was there. Mike Klein was there. Elizabeth Howes from the city manager's office was there. And let's see what else here. Let's see here. That's a nice little photo of everyone. It was really cool to see. I hope to get a lot more of these. And I hope to get a walk that goes along with this. So you can start in one part of the city and then end up in a different part of the city and take a walk and visit all these historical markers. We have a lot of history in Redondo Beach. I grew up in San Pedro. Our history is different. Our history is port and military, Fort MacArthur, so World War I, but particularly World War II with the big guns, 16-inch guns. And fishing, of course. Redondo, we started off at the port, but then we went into a whole different aspect, more of a retreat vacation area from Hollywood, right? And that's kind of our history. And Redondo is round, and that's how we originally created. We had the old Mondstadt Pier. Of course, for everyone that knows, the sister hotel, the Hotel del Coronado, was at Veterans Park. That was built there, and then it was taken out and sold for $2,500. So it was really cool to see that. Next up is one of my favorites. A week ago last Saturday, we had the Alta Vista Little League opening day. And it was really cool to see the hundreds upon hundreds of parents. I had to park a half mile away, and there was just a ton of people there. We had the first pitch, and it was given out for boys and first pitch for girls. And celebrating, they have a new backstop here. I don't know if did I download those photos, but there is a new backstop on the southwest side of the field as you enter on the left-hand side there. And that backstop, I got money into the budget last year from the Quimby funds to do that, to build that out this year. It was literally falling apart. So it was really cool to see. They maintain, just so everyone knows, the Alta Vista Little League brings in roughly $200,000 a year, and they maintain the fields. They maintain a whole host of hardware, from the fields and the grass to the benches, and a lot of equipment there, field equipment. So they do a great job. They're all volunteers. No one there gets paid. There's a lot of parents who take a lot of time out of their day to do what they need to do. Really cool. So let's see. Next up, let me find my agenda. California new proposed bills, SB 951 and AB 2560. Last week we discussed AB 2560. What are these bills? They are here to destroy the Coastal Act and the Coastal Zone to let developers come in and build housing projects with minimal development fees and without parking requirements if they have affordable housing. And what does that mean? So SB 951 is focused in on primarily on the city of San Francisco and the coastal zone. It reduces the size of the coastal zone dramatically, and what's left of the coastal zone, it basically says any type of housing projects that are done with affordable housing in there, they can go through and not have parking requirements and not have a whole host of requirements that we normally have, especially in the coastal zone, to allow for coastal management. For instance, this last a year and a half ago, we denied the city council a affordable housing project in the coastal zone on Catalina, the old Catalina Coffee Company location. They were underparked by over 100 parking spots, and they had commercial there. There was a historic district. Long story short, we denied it 4 o'clock in the morning. The developer went back to the drawing board, came back with a different project, and made sure it was parked correctly and the impacts were mitigated properly. And it went to the planning commission. The planning commission approved the project, and it didn't even get appealed to the city council. So project was approved there at that location, and they have not started work there. And now I believe the location, which has multiple owners, is for sale and for lease. So if you want to lease those buildings and do a cool commercial project, you are please do. AB 2560 is a state bill sponsored by San Diego Assembly member. AB 2560 essentially gets rid of all requirements when it has type of parking requirements in the coastal zone if it has affordable housing. So it's kind of the sister bill to SB 951, and I got a lot of chat. And a developer, when it comes into town, can propose a project and include as much or as little parking as they want, and height variances, parking, coastal access restrictions, all those things are out the window. They can develop a project and come to city council or cities and get them almost by right. These are very dangerous bills. If they get passed as is, they need to be completely killed at the very minimum. But at the end of the day, this is just another bill, another assault on our cities and our local control. And here I'll just give a shameless plug for our Neighborhood Voices. Our Neighborhood Voices is a statewide initiative that was founded by Bill Brand, a former mayor, passed away. Here, let me share my screen here. It puts all control back into the hands of the cities. And this is really important because statewide, state legislators are applying the same laws across the state. So San Francisco problems by Senator Wiener. He takes his problems, he takes the solutions for San Francisco and applies them statewide, and he's getting away with it. People say vote out the assembly members or the senators. Guess what? 25–30% of assembly members in November of 2022 were brand new, and they come back in 2023 and pass. They pass a whole multitude of bad laws, new bad laws. It gets worse and worse every single year. The only answer we have at the end of the day, we can fight all these state laws and bills and win. But then they just come back and pass another one. They amend it and they change it. The only tool we have to fight back is to pass this statewide initiative, our neighborhood voices. It prevents the state legislature from taking over local control and all of our local housing laws. They have a weekly Zoom meeting at 6 o'clock on Wednesdays. I highly suggest everyone put this in the chat. Everyone joins them and donates, has a house party. It's the only way we're going to stop Sacramento from coming in and taking over our housing, our local control, and just forcing these types of projects on us. And it is vitally important. I can't overstate it enough. So that's the history of those two bills. We passed a motion to have staff create a resolution and a letter to oppose these bills. We have 951 coming up this week, I believe, tomorrow. So onwards to the next one. Cannabis update. Let's see. Just everyone knows, cannabis is, I'm sure you've heard, is coming to town. Cities like Torrance have banned cannabis, except if you go on Google, you'll see that there's plenty of cannabis stores in Torrance. And that's because they don't do anything about it. In Redondo Beach, we have had cannabis stores, illegal dispensaries, and we've done something about it. But it takes a long time to get rid of those stores. You have to use very creative methods to get rid of those stores. Yes, David, I will do that. The problem is when you don't allow something like this and an illegal dispensary comes up, it takes a lot of staff time. You also have delivery happening right now, legal delivery happening in our city. And it's going all unregulated. And it's very hard to stop. It takes a lot of work to stop. But if we create a legal retail process and system, and then we hand out some licenses, which can be revoked if we have bad operators, then if somebody decides to open up an illegal cannabis shop, we just simply go to the judge and say, we want a temporary restraining order to shut these guys down. The judge will give it to us right away. We will show that we have cause and ability that this is harming us, and we can shut them down just like that. And then we can also start dealing with deliveries that are coming into town, and ensuring that we're getting part of the, we can tax it, or we can enforce, making sure that it's a legitimate product that's coming to us, and making sure that we have legitimate operators with business licenses, and we can actually now allow recording. We can actually allow people to move forward with or allow 2 licenses in Redondo Beach, retail in Redondo Beach, and move forward with having something that we can benefit from. So we had a meeting in early February, I think it was, early February and mid-February. Beginning of March, bringing on a contractor called Tierra West to help us along to update our ordinance. Our ordinance, which was really, really badly written. Thankfully, we did not use that ordinance to move forward. For instance, the ordinance that was crafted by our city attorney had some verbiage in there regarding setbacks and standards, and in the setbacks, it was referring to development standards, except those development standards, the numbers that was referring to massage parlors. So that's a big problem. We would have gotten sued and we would have lost. So we have a third party coming in and reviewing all of our work and harmonizing our application process to our ordinance, making sure they work together hand in glove. And we'll be taking applications, coming out with a consistent process. We'll take applications, and the application process will have a process, and including appeals, and eventually will come to the city council for final approval and moving forward. And one of the big things about what we're asking for right now, we're discussing, is whether or not to require on the application, or if you turn in an application, to require property as part of the application. And the reason why I am looking at getting that in there now is because in the beginning, I wasn't so sure. I didn't know. But as I go through this and as I talk to cannabis operators, as I talk to city staff from other cities, as I talk to city council members of other cities who've been through this, who've done good jobs and bad jobs, looking back and saying, hey, what would you do differently? And talking to our city staff, hey, what's going on? We need to be able to judge not just the operator, but where they're actually planning on placing said location at. And it gives you the ability as residents to be able to look at an application and a location and say, here are my concerns, and I would like you to fix these concerns. And if they don't fix it, hey, that gives us, a reason to say no, or score this application at a lower level. If they do fix it and if do finds a good location, then that application will go up in points. And there's a point system associated with this. So yes, our city attorney is still Mike Webb. He's an elected representative. He's representing here until March of next year, same as my term and the mayor's term, and Councilmember Lowenstein, Councilmember Wabaji's term. So we're going to have an open seat in that one. So if you're a lawyer and you want to run for this particular seat, you can go for the city attorney seat. So that's and the reason I throw this on here is just to make everyone understands that if you look at a map, you basically have South Redondo and PCH, and that are a lot of commercial areas that are have allowed for cannabis operations for retail, and then Artesia Boulevard as well. And those are the two major areas. There's the tech center down in District 2, and there's some other small areas here and there that allow the commercial corridors and commercial areas in the city. There's a map associated with that. The map is online. We had it part of the agenda topic, and so if you're interested, you can go ahead and check it out. And if there's any questions, let me know. You can raise your hand or put questions in the comments. I see comments there. Someone is plugging themselves for it. So yeah, if there's no other questions or comments, you raise your hand.
Nils?
Look online. Oh, Joan, yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to raise my hands on this, and I couldn't. Yes, I was plugging myself. I'm been involved in advocating for cannabis legalization since 2017. As we've talked about, I've talked about youth safety and senior access and the importance of education. I have a radio show that it's up there on Your Best Life on healthylife.net that I talk about cannabis. And also there's some articles on my blog on drjoanervine.com. If anybody has any questions, they can contact me at joan@joanervineconsulting.com. And or if they would like me to come speak to their group, or for me to bring in some experts to speak at their group, once again, contact me at joan@joanervine.com. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Anyone have any other questions about what's going on? All right, I will now go to the next topic. So, audit committee report. We had our audit committee, and our audit committee, so everyone understands the budget process. We start the budget process this time of year, and our city staff starts meeting with the public. Our city manager starts meeting with the public. City department heads start meeting with the city manager, start looking at the needs and requirements for the upcoming year, and they put together a budget. And that budget is presented as per city charter by the 16th, I believe, or 18th, 16th, 18th of May, and it gets presented to the city council. And at that point in time, it becomes the people's budget, or the city council's budget. And you guys can come by and look at it. What they present, what staff presents, is the staff budget, and then staff requests and staff asks, and what staff wants to do. We take it in the city council and we look at that and we amend it. And we say, nope, we're going to do this or not do this. And we will go through. Last year, we made some significant changes. Councilmember Lowenstein and I, for instance, saw a need in our fire department, which has been completely underfunded for many years. We didn't have a training captain. We didn't have inspection captain. We just got done buying a new fire engine that caught fire in the fire station. It was 22 years old. Should have been in service, but it was in service because we weren't spending the money on it. And we have our backup fire engine. Our next backup fire engine was 20 years old. And Councilmember Lowenstein and I sat there and looked at everything and said, you know what? Made some few phone calls. I made some few phone calls around the state, California, and I came across a firefighter up in San Carlos who has a business selling fire engines, and he says, "Yep, I got one for you, but you got to have it here. But you gotta have this sold or budgeted by the end of June for us." I said, "Well, that's our timeline." So we put another $1.1 million into the budget for a new fire engine and a whole slew of other things, and we were successful at that, and we started moving and we moved forward. So then we approved the budget at the end of June, and budget gets implemented and with the amendments, and then the budget actually comes out. The formalized budget comes out in say August, September, because with all the formal amendments that we have in there and the decision packages and things that were asked for, and the staff starts working off that budget. Mid-year through the cycle, usually around February, we get mid-year update. This year, our mid-year is late. We still haven't even had it yet. It's still going to come in April, probably, hopefully sometime in April. It better, because it's late this year because we had some new GASB requires some accounting standards, government accounting standards practice standards that have completely changed on us. And because we're a city that has a lot of licenses and leases, more so than any other city, actually, there's only one other city in the state of California has more licenses and leases, and that's the county of San Bernardino, I believe it is. So that took a lot of extra legwork. We had to change over systems that we're using, and we're using a new budgetary tool, which is all going to save us time. Long story short, we have a mid-year budget cycle, which shows us where we are in our mid-year cycle for the budget. Now, that brings us to the mid-year. Then we have our final budget, and then the final budget takes roughly 5 months to close out, because by the time all the invoices come in and everything gets paid and the checks get cleared and the carryovers are done and all accounting is done, it takes roughly 3, 4, 5 months. It's a lot of work to get done. It takes a lot of time, and so we usually get our end of year, usually like November, December, right in there, and that closes out. And then after that happens, we give the closeout to an auditing firm. We've been using LSL for a number of years. We are starting a new company, interviewing with a new company. We have 3 companies, I believe, that we're interviewing, 5 turn-in applications. We can always use our auditing company for so many years. And that auditing company now takes that end of year budget and puts it through its paces and says, okay, let's make sure 1 + 1 = 2. And what you guys said you spent on over here actually got spent on over here. And they do not do, though, fraud. And they do not say, hey, you bought 10 tires and 5 of those tires, or or say tires, or ended up somewhere else. Or, you bought 1,000 gallons of gasoline, but you only needed 50,000 or 500 gallons of gasoline, and the rest you did something else with that you weren't supposed to do. Those types of tests in the system are not done. That's not what they look at. What they look at is make sure that 1 + 1 = 2, that the invoices that came in were paid and paid once, and auditing wise, that that's we got a clean bill of health. And what's really good about it is that our total net reserves went up to $33 million for a couple of reasons, which is the highest it's ever been. It went up by 3.7 million because we paid off our pension debt obligation. We borrowed $226 million at 2.82%, and basically the bottom of the interest rates. And that allowed us to pay off our pension debt with the state CalPERS, and that is saving us a ton of money. Now, with that said, CalPERS has come back and says, well, we had some bad investment year, and now you owe us another $40 million. That's the state of California for you. So having so many employees and public safety employees has a real big hit to us, and we have to manage that hit. So regardless, we are in a really good financial status. We also got a review by Moody's, which is an investment and review standards company, and that company gave us another AAA rating, the highest rating you can get for any municipality. So really happy. We're doing a great job with our budget. We're really financially modeled really well, and we have a lot of money in the bank, and our sales tax is doing really well where it came from. Remember, we lost Nordstrom's and South Bay Galleria. I can talk about that in a second, but they're down significantly from what they used to be in the highs. Our TOT taxes are down because the Marine Avenue hotels are down, but otherwise our TOT taxes are up. Marine Avenue hotels were down to $5 million a year instead of our normal $8 million or our max of $8 million. And the reason why is because the Marine Avenue hotels have a certain fund, and that fund was raided during COVID, and those hotels were allowed to take that money to do their operations during COVID. And so those fund needs to go be built back up again before we start taking that TOT tax back out. We have Legato coming online. Riviera Village has the highest sales tax revenue ever in the history of Riviera Village, so they're doing great down there. Keep doing whatever you guys are doing, going to shopping down there and restaurants down there. It's working down there. And then our utility tax is doing well. Real estate taxes are better than ever before. So all is really well in the revenue side, and we're looking having new revenues coming in, so that's really good as well. Let's see here. If there's any questions on that, I'll take that right now while I look at my next subject. Wilderness Park. Oh, actually, South Bay Galleria. I'm going to touch that for a second. South Bay Galleria is going to go to the Planning Commission and ask for another 350 apartments. So we approved in January of 2019, 300 apartments plus 150 room hotel plus a whole new set of commercial. Well, since 2019, things have happened. Things like interest rates, things like COVID, things like retail isn't doing well anymore. Surprise. And they've also changed ownership. You know, a lot of people looked at me and I was asking questions of the owner. It was a Queensland QIC, I believe it was QIC, Queensland Investment Corporation Consortium, basically a pension fund from Australia. You know, why are you so harsh on them? Why are you asking so many questions? Why are you being so difficult with them? Why are you bringing down their vesting tentative track map from 50 down to 20, which is the way they parcelize things up? Because I said, you know what? I don't know. They could sell tomorrow. They could sell next week. They're going to stay. They're going to keep it. But everyone says that. You know, all these promises are always made. They're in their salesmanship and they're gone. Well, QIC sold to Louis Vuitton, Monet, Hennessy, LVMH, which is a luxury brand from Europe. And they bought the entire South Bay Galleria, and they've rebranded the South Bay Social District. And since then, interest rates are higher. Banks don't want to lend for this type of a project. They have to cut the project back. They have to go to different lending sources. Interest rates are higher. And the project scopes have changed. And now they're realizing we have to develop another 300 apartments there, 350 in addition to the 300 that we already approved. So they're going to the Planning Commission here in the next few months. And they have an environmental impact report that allows them to do that. So it's about mitigating the impacts of that and seeing where the asks are, making sure that project, those 350 apartments, get integrated properly to the community and the rest of the project. Housing is the big get, right? It's the big money maker for a lot of these places, and they do also, the city worked with them to get their permits for the hotel and the housing portion of the project, their current project, out through in record time for a project such as theirs. On the time, less than a year, maybe just about at a year, they were able to get their permits for construction. The South Bay Social District got approval to pull their permits at the beginning of the year, which means they can pull the permit to start construction on the apartments and hotel right now, today, and start construction tomorrow. They have not. And the reason why they have not is because of the financing that's associated with the entire project. They are now going to redo the inside of the project versus the outside of the project. They've moved things around, and they're making a much smaller investment because of the risk that's associated and the cost that's associated with the entire project. Now, those permits are only good for a certain amount of time, and they run out at the end of this year. We talk about housing and housing projects. Well, guess what? Those housing projects permit expires at the end of this year. They have to apply for a new permit. They don't want to do that because the state of California has imposed a whole host of new environmental and construction and health and safety rules, which make building housing extremely more expensive. So going back to housing and state control, guess what? The state of California likes to blame cities for not producing housing, but at the end of the day, the state of California is forcing more expensive building and different and construction of housing, and making it so expensive that it makes it unaffordable to build these types of housing projects. So they're moving as fast as they can. They're going to ask for another 350 units. They have to go through the permit process for that, which will be a separate project, but they're going to expect that to be part of their financing, and they will be talking about that in the future as well. Willard's Park and Alta Vista park improvements. The reason why I had my in-person community meeting at Veterans Park Senior Center was because the roof at Alta Vista is being replaced, as well as a bunch of interior work. Willard's Park, the roof there, as well as a bunch of interior work is being done there as well. So my in-person meetings in April and May will be at the Veterans Park Senior Center as well. Can't forget about the Memorial Paddle Out, which is going to be the same day as my in-person community meeting, which is Saturday, May 11th. The community meeting I'm going to hold an hour earlier, so from 8:30 to 10:30, and then the paddle out will start at 11 o'clock. We'll meet down there at that grassy place right next to the Veterans Park, and then we'll paddle out. So everyone's invited. Save the date for that. We'll be setting out a flyer this week for that. And when it comes to park improvements and aviation park improvements, we had a meeting 2 weeks ago at the beginning of March about aviation park improvements, except it didn't end up as aviation park improvements, ended up as all about pickleball. And pickleballers came down and wanted to get a massive pickleball court, 6 courts being built at aviation there at the old, where there used to be an old pool at the old high school, and which would cost roughly $1.3 million. Obviously, we don't have any money for that. We credit card spent in our budget last year. In fact, we spent so much money we deficit spent. We were spending money on expected money that would be expectedly coming in. I haven't gotten that money yet, so we're a little bit behind. Pickleball, when it comes to pickleball, there was a motion that was made was to restripe 2 of the Alta Vista tennis courts to allow for pickleball, to turn them into 8 pickleball courts. I said at the meeting, in-person meeting in the beginning of March, that we need to have tennis players here to talk about that. Mark Hansen at a community meeting in person on Saturday said, we got to have the swimmers there. Talk about the swimmers, what the swimmers believe about putting pickleball up there on a potential pool at the aviation. And we had a really good conversation at the in-person community meeting on Saturday. And a lot of people have talked about, well, you can just restripe some pickleball or tennis courts to turn them into pickleball. The problem with that is pickleball has noise issues and parking issues. Where you take 1 tennis court and you can convert that to 4 pickleball courts. You can get on each pickleball court, there'll be 4 people. So that's 16 people. So you're going from a max of 2 or 4 tennis players to 16 people. That's a significant increase in people. And of course, 8 pickleball games being played at once is loud. You have the residents that live next door. You have all the other uses. And one thing that came up at my online in-person meeting was about how much Alta Vista is used. We have the soccer leagues. We have the tennis leagues, we have the baseball leagues that are there, we have the general users, we have the community garden that's there, we have the dog run that's there, we have the parties in the community center that gets rented out. We have about 50 to 100 people that show up just for those. Alta Vista is an extremely heavily used park. It would be between that park and Aviation Park that would be the heaviest use. And a question came up as to how much money Alta Vista makes. And I'm going to try to get that data and find that information, because the tennis courts produce a wealth of money for the city of Redondo Beach, and the other park uses and the community center there bring in that you can rent, bring in a lot of money for the city. So it'd be interesting to see what's going on with that at Alta Vista. And I think if we add uses there to those courts, we're going to increase the usage, increase the amount of people showing up, and we have to budget for that in terms of impacts to the community. And yes, Desiree, I see your comment. Overlay for stripes for shared use, and that came up during the in-person meeting. And one thing that was talked about was that those tennis courts there are not just practice courts. There's been a lot of talk about shared uses, and those are for practice courts and for basketball courts or other areas for shared. The tennis courts at Alta Vista are used for competition and league uses and regulation. And if you start putting other stripes onto tennis courts, those courts no longer become regulation style courts. That's what the tennis players talked about. So I think there's a lot more talk that's going to happen about that. We had a really good conversation at our in-person community meeting for that, and I expect us to have more. I've got some good ideas moving forward for some more pickleball courts in Redondo, some unused space, some untapped areas. And I'll tell you right now, I've got at least 2 more areas or 2 more courts that we could possibly create just for pickleball only. Really nice areas, actually, nicer area in mind, and some other one or two other areas as well. So we will look at the ability for you to play regulation games and pickleball games and courts, and have your own place to play away from other people. And I think it'd be really cool to have that all over the city, as well as just one part what we have now. So let me look at the comments here for whatchamacallit. Let's see here. Zoom. When are we going to build our new fire station in the 1950s? Yeah, fire stations are falling apart. That's another conversation. At your meeting on Saturday, Tennis Pro stated they will most likely lose the likelihood of high proponents of pickleball. At your meeting on Saturday, Tennis Pro stated they would most likely lose their livelihood if the courts there would be restriped. I don't know, Mr. Wayne, if the pickleballers have done that. There are pickleball courts. There is a school board member there who walked the high school, Redondo Beach Union High School, and people were multiple weekends, different groups. And when the school board member and Rolf Strutzenberg and Todd Lowenstein, a council member, walked by there and started talking to all those pickleball players. They asked them, "Hey, where are you guys from?" They all said every single time, "Oh, we're from Torrance. We're from Torrance." And Torrance has the South Bay Tennis Club, which is right on the corner of Rolling Hills Way and Crenshaw. There's 2 converted courts, 2 tennis courts that are converted to multiple pickleball courts there. And just the other day, I heard that was talking to one of the Torrance City Council members. They are passing an ordinance to make sure pickleball courts are no less than 250 feet from residential units. They started their ordinance with 500 feet, and I believe the council member, what's his name? Matucci, Councilmember Matucci, brought that down from 500 feet down to 250 feet. So Torrance is moving forward with an ordinance that says no pickleball courts within 250 feet of residential areas. So we don't have that ordinance in place. We have a couple of small courts here and there, which hopefully don't get too much noise complaints. I've gotten a couple of noise complaints from some people. Some people have emailed me, said that they want to put in an hourly no pickleball allowed before 9 a.m. Part of the motion that was created and passed in the beginning of May was to ban pickleball at parklets. So I know that's been an issue at some parklets. So you know, noise is definitely an issue, and it's a process. So I think just, you know, we're moving forward. We have Redondo Beach now, what, 6 pickleball courts, and that's a big start from where we came. We've been over $100,000 on that, and I know a lot of people look at the schools. I know the schools have a lot of open space, and the schools are primed for pickleballing. The city of Redondo Beach, not so much. We've built out everything out in Redondo. We've just taken everything. In fact, so much so that we're the only city in LA County, and I think Orange County as well, that built on their city-owned beachfront property apartments. So that's how much Redondo Beach has built. We built on the sand. If you look at Hermosa Beach has nice wide open sand, and then you know, you get to Redondo Beach, now you have big old apartments. So yeah. All right. Desiree, I see you're coming here. Those are not courts. I'm not sure what courts what you're talking about. We did a bunch of at Franklin Park, some courts there, and a bunch of some shared courts, individual courts as well. So all right. Mayor Brand paddle out on Saturday, May 11th at 11 a.m. Veterans Park. Our flyer was forthcoming. Save the date. If you want to join, but you don't want to get on a paddleboard, totally got you. Totally thought about that, and you'll be able to go onto the Mondstadt Pier there and check out from the Mondstadt Pier. You'll be able to see the paddle out. We're gonna have. It's gonna be a big deal. It's gonna be a lot of boats there. A lot of Kila's gonna take part. King Harbor Yacht Club. We'll have Baywatch Redondo there providing safety, as well as Harbor Patrol, LA County lifeguards. I've been in touch with them. I've done a permit with the Department of Beaches and Harbors, and we're going through that process. I'm meeting with the city in about a week or so, and it's going to be a big thing. We're going to have some food trucks there. We're getting some volunteers. If you want to volunteer and help out for this event, we're looking for volunteers to start doing things, whether it's from artwork to money to flowers and a whole host of things. So if you want to volunteer a little bit, send me a note in the comments, private message me, send me an email, and we're getting going. Our team is getting together. We have like 5 or 6 people already moving forward for that, and this will be a community event. We want to make kind of a happy event. We had, you know, his private funeral, which was really sad, and a lot of crying, and he had the public one, which was kind of sad, and there's some happiness parts there as well. But we want to kind of make this a happy part there. And Mayor's wife will be there. We'll have some of ashes we'll be putting out into the ocean as well. So I think it's gonna be a good day, Saturday, May 11th. Hopefully the weather will be nice. I'll be positive, though. It'll be 1 week after Beach Life Festival. So Beach Life Festival will happen on May 3, 4, 5, I believe. Friday the 3rd, 3, 4, 5. And there's some big names there. Make sure you buy your tickets. I know the general availability for 3-day tickets has been sold out, so get your tickets now. Sting will be there amongst many others, so it'll be fun. Let's see here. Extravaganza, Franklin Park, Saturday, March 23rd. So this weekend coming up, which is, I guess, it is Easter, folks. Easter is coming up. Spring is here. Spring is just about here. It's a couple days away. I think this is early for Easter, isn't it? I want to say. I'm not sure. But we have a big event called the Extravaganza. Let me see if I can pull it up here for you, show it to you. It's at Franklin Park. And you can do some pickleball while you're there. Let's see here. It is an egg hunt. And let's see, the 23rd. Well, it's not there. It was. Oh, I can go to here it is. let me download the flyer real quick because I believe there is an RSVP. Let me see updated information then. Information here. There you go. All righty. Nope, that's not it. Wrong one. Oh, there it is. Yep. All right. So extravaganza, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And please RSVP. Here is the link. I am putting it early. Thank you, Gene. Yes, it is very early this year. I thought it was always usually at the end of March, early April sometime. Let's see here. 47 people are following this. So it starts at 10 a.m. Egg rolling starts at 10:20 a.m. for all ages. And please RSVP and reserve a spot. It is free. It is at Franklin Park. But they are asking for RSVP so they know how many eggs to give and how many how many people there are going to be there. So it's a really cool event. I've been one time. It's a lot of people. It is a lot of kids. It's a lot of fun, and expect to be packed. Hopefully it'll be great weather. I don't have the PDF here with me, otherwise I would put that into the chat. Ticket sales. It's not on the, it used to be on the front page of the Redondo.org. Used to be on the front page of the city website. I'm not sure where it went. I'm not sure why it's not there anymore. If I find it, I will put that into the chat, but I don't see it anywhere. All right. Well, citywide calendar. All right, moving on. Let's see here. City's birthday is on the 27th of April. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Oh, there it is. Extravaganza. There it is. Maybe I do have it. See, I just can't look at dogs sometimes. I just don't stop. Register here. Nope, don't have it there. Sorry. All right, moving on. Enough of that. Next up here. Logo contest. This is something I can put in the chat. Do you like our logo it currently is? Do you like our new updated logo that we're currently working off of? Well, you spoke and we listened. I'm going to put into the chat right here the link. If you are interested in submitting a logo idea, when I say idea, I don't mean like some chicken scratch. No offense to chickens. But a real logo. Go on Fiverr. Go together with a friend who knows how to do something digital online. Go find a place where you can help you maybe come together with a group of people who know digital graphics, and you can submit a logo to the City of Redondo Beach through the link I just put here online. And we are going to collect all these logos. It is due April 6th, I believe. April 8th. So it's due April 8th. So don't wait. Start the process now. It's only a few weeks away. Hermosa Beach did this, and their current logo is a slightly modified version of what was brought to the council through a design contest. What the process is going to be is all these logo designs are going to come in to the form that you're going to click on and put in. Then the city clerk is going to put these all into the agenda. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these logos and I'm going to put a survey out on my website. I'm going to have all these logos there, and I'm going to have every single logo there. I'm going to have comments and other ideas there. And all of us council members are going to bring our one favorite logo that we're going to look at and say and choose. And we're going to bring it to the council meeting, and we're going to look at between what we've done, what we had in the past, what we currently have as a proposed logo, and then the logo that would have been sent in via this contest, and we're going to vote on that. Now, I give some guidance to some people on this logo real quick. The simpler, the better. You make a lot of these, make it really complicated and put stuff on there. For instance, our city seal. Well, if I have my city seal here available for me, but if you've seen the city seal, there's a ship there. There is, let me see if I can have, I don't think I have it. There's a ship there, there's a pier. It's really complicated, right? There's a lot there. And good quality logos are simple. They're not very complex with different colors and different designs. They are consistent. Look at Hermosa Beach's logo. It's very consistent, very clean. It works through a variety of areas and subjects, and wherever you want to put that logo. So think about that for a while, about when you do that, when you design the logo, make it so that it fits in many different areas. So think about if it goes on a vehicle, if it goes on a patch, it goes on a uniform, it goes on paperwork. Make sure that whatever you submit, your ideas, I would say have character, content the character of the community, and we'll see how it goes. So if you have an idea, put it together, then submit it. We'll see how it goes. Let's see here. Brings me to my next subject matter. Mid-year budget in April. 4th of July fireworks. We're gonna have a 4th of July fireworks show in Redondo Beach in the harbor. There will be no fireworks at the Riviera Village. Keep That Smile Beautiful is not doing a fireworks show like they normally are. It's another victim of the water board in the state of California, or LA County, that from the state that implemented a new system. There's basically there's only one vendor who's willing to do a show for us here in LA County, and the price of that show is essentially almost double than it was last year. And they can do that because no one is willing to do a show in LA County anymore because of the new restrictions that they have in place. And since people aren't willing to do it, there's not very many vendors who are willing to go down that path. So the one or two that are left can charge a lot more money. And vendors that have fireworks shows can do a show on land without all these million restrictions and paperwork and all the hassle. So in LA County, I think you're going to start seeing a lot of these fireworks shows go away, except for these really big shows that can handle it. So LA County, Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach, municipalities, none of these private shows, which is a real tragedy. Really, really sad. Let's see here. Drone program for Redondo Beach. Speaking of drones and fireworks, last year we had drones. Didn't go over so well. We spent $70,000 on drones, which is a cheap price. It's a deal for $70,000, and people weren't too impressed. Well, the Redondo Beach Police Department, we've had a drone program for many years in Redondo, and it started off with Flying Lion, and the guy who owned it is a current Redondo Beach Reserve police officer, and he currently works, I believe, was his company with Beverly Hills Police Department, some other police departments as well. Well, our police department is using a new system, and I've done some follow-up work with the drone. The police department, it has now proposed. It was a consent calendar item. I pulled it. It is a brand new contract for over $100,000 for 3 months, 4 months. So it includes a whiz-bang new high technology radar. And it said part of the problem with having drones is you have to have somebody on a building looking at the drone the entire time and seeing, is there a helicopter? Is there something coming in, airplane? Is there a kite? Something in the way of wherever this drone is flying. Well, this new whiz-bang radar can detect that, and it comes up on the screen and alerts the drone operator. And it's licensing this particular radar for $100,000, and then the service comes for another about $100,000. I have a really big problem with signing a contract like this long term. Did not go out to bid. This is a sole source. They didn't ask any of us if we wanted to do this or not. We're expanding our drone program. Drone programs are force multipliers, so I don't have a problem with drones. I have an issue with handing out contracts that didn't go out to bid and didn't go through a public, transparent process of who won this bid and why. And we need to, council as a community, have to have a big conversation. The last police chief told me, "Oh, we don't have a drone that goes anywhere off Paulina, that area." And those residents always were asking me, "Well, how come this drone always shows up over our house?" They, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about." And then I find out, oh, our police drone leaves from Beach City's health district, the roof of Beach City's health district, and it flies all around the city. Police drone can get all around the city within 2 minutes, which is awesome. First on scene right away. We have it there 3-4 nights of the week, available for 10 hours a day, which is awesome, which is great. Other cities like Beverly Hills has a citywide drone program, covers the whole city, costs $500,000 a year. They have security center. It's scary what they have. I'm not going to go down that path and describe what they have, but I know what they have. I saw a presentation, and we in this community, I think we need to have a real conversational topic on how we want to use technology in the sky. So when it comes to drones, when it comes to cameras, integration of all of these, how other communities are using this. Gardena has a drone program as well. Drones, they don't get sick. When they break, they're easy to fix. They don't take workers' comp. They don't require 40 hours a week. Doesn't matter if you work them 50 hours a week or 60 hours a week or 80 hours a week. There's no overtime. There's a set cost with drones. So, and multiple people can utilize that drone, the video, whether it's fire department, public works, other areas. So they're force multipliers. And it doesn't require as much individual police members, hiring of them and managing of them. They don't file lawsuits, drones, but they can cause lawsuits. They can fall out of the sky. They can break and land up in someone's yard. What happens then? What's the liability there? So a lot of these are questions that we need to ask, and the questions and the community ourselves, we need to start asking and being understanding that when you see a big drone overhead, like I did just the other day, to know that is not a residential drone, consumer drone, that is the police drone. And it's a big drone. It's not small. It's a really big drone, really big device. So they're very valuable, but we in our community need to be aware of what kind of technology that we're using, and be aware of the cost that's associated with that. Has drone program averted criminal activity? So I want to be, and that's a really good question as to where our drone program is going, camera program is going, because Beverly Hills is starting to go down the path of, it looks like these people are going to commit a crime. Be really clear on what I just said. It looks like these people are about to commit a crime. No one's created a crime yet. They're going off what the individuals look like, where they came from, and where they're going. Now, in this case, in Beverly Hills, in this particular case, their camera system caught this car that was coming in, and the license plate reader recognized license plate, but didn't match the car. And they were able to see the people inside the car and the type of car, that the type of people that were there. They noticed, oh, these are wanted criminals from somewhere else. So they got them in a parking lot. They were coming back. They were following them, and they were able to catch these people as they had all their gear in their car. Now, it sounds, cool and stuff, but you got to be really careful about where we're going down that path, right? We have license plate readers in the city, a whole bunch of them all over the place in the city. And it's important to understand how this technology is being used, how this data is being kept, how long it's being kept, who has access to the data, who searches it. If there's third parties, private companies that have access to this data, which they do because they run them, run these programs. So these are the types of questions that need to be asked regarding the drone program. Do they have the technologies to be able to see heat sensing technology? Can they see into people's homes? Yes. What's the zoom capability? What is, when you have these heat sensors on there, where people are, even you can see in the windows. There's a whole host of things here that Beverly Hills Police Department has gone through and learned lessons learned, and have now understood that we as a community, we're just really getting into this and expanding our drone program. We need to be comfortable with that. So privacy concerns, technology concerns, liability concerns, these are all what's coming towards us in policing and with the use of technology with eyes in the sky and cameras. So really, really important, I think, moving forward. And before I sign another budget, I approved this particular item, but I made sure the motion that I made included a full report to the city council on other vendors. While I fully expect the police department to come back and say there's no other vendors to do this, and I expect the police report or the report to come back and say, oh, they're doing a great job. This is fantastic, and this is all great. I expect them to say that, but we were spending a lot more money now on these programs than we ever have before. So that's kind of where I'm leaving this at. And so we want to make sure that we are the cost benefit analysis, get the data. Adrian Gomez, thank you very much. All right, that's what I'm looking for. So reasonable suspicion is legal. Reasonable suspicion, David, is something that you can't just say with the drone. There's a lot of other communities that have done this. We have to be careful about what we're doing in this arena. And some people don't want them over their private homes. I don't want over my private home. They have great Zoom capabilities. These technology. If anyone watches Ukraine, what's going on in Ukraine, tanks are being taken out with drones, right? Armored personnel vehicles, all these things have drones are flying for miles and miles. And technology of drones, what they can carry, and they can guide themselves, come back home by themselves. It's moving forward. This is the 1982 book, George Orwell's book, coming alive. Terminator, right? Machines are going to start getting a mind of their own. So, anyways, enough of that. Let's see, what else do I have here? We're coming up on the end, so if anyone has anything, let's see, in the harbor, I don't have anything. Riviera Village, I don't have anything. They are doing dredging in the harbor. My next upcoming meetings in person will be held at the Veterans Park Senior Center. If anyone has any questions on any of the questions and topics or want to raise anything, throw them into the comments, raise your hand. Jean, you have raised your hand.
Yeah, I had a question on the
Volume
pickleball
on. Yep, there you go.
and the tennis courts. So
Yes.
my question, does the city charge for use of pickleball courts? And do they charge for tennis courts?
Sorry, I'm drinking water. Did the city charge for the use of pickleball courts? No, all the pickleball courts that have been striped and painted so far are free. There's 3 shared courts at Perry Park. There's 2 courts at Franklin Park, and there's 1 court at 1, 2, 3.
Anderson.
And Anderson, thank you. That's a shared court at Anderson. Those are all free courts. And the pickleball court over at Franklin Park, I don't know if I have a picture offhand, but it's really nice. City staff did a way better job than I was expecting them to do. I mean, they really painted it properly. Let me see if I can find a photo of it before it was actually open to the part. At least I can find it.
But do we charge for
So-
tennis court use?
Great question. So I was just looking here. I don't have it here, Franklin Park. Okay. Tennis courts. So tennis courts at Anderson Park are free for the public to use. There's 2 tennis courts there. Anyone can just show up and use those courts whenever they want for free. I know they have hours, but I'm not sure what they are. The courts at Alta Vista are a whole different ball game. Using that for reason, terminology for a reason. It's a whole different ball game there at Alta Vista. First of all, not anyone can just show up and play tennis at Alta Vista. You have to be a member of the Alta Vista Tennis Club, which is the city tennis club, and that covers the liability. And there's a cost there for that. Then there's an hourly cost for you to rent the court every hour per person, or actually the court, which is broken up per person. Every person, like I said, has to be a member of Alta Vista Tennis Club. And then the pros, if you're giving lessons there, you have to give a percentage of your revenue to the city. So, and if you have competitions and you're using the place for competition, whether it's one of the leagues or one of the events, you are giving part of those proceeds to the city of Redondo Beach. And the pros, I believe, the ones that advertise in the city magazine and get signups to the city, 30% of the revenue comes from 30% of their revenue goes to the city. So Alta Vista pays a lot.
So what I'm getting at is if we change those to pickleball courts, it's actually, we lose money. The city loses money.
I think there's going to be a large impact. So we would definitely charge for the usage of the pickleball courts on those tennis courts. But I don't think you're going to get the same amount of revenue covered in terms of the revenue that is being generated from the other sources. Because, for instance, you can't run competitions there anymore. And so there's a revenue. Pros can't use those courts anymore to do training and events and have teams there. So those pros will either be moving or losing their livelihood. So we're not going to have that revenue there anymore. So yeah, there's a larger impact than just simply restriping something. And of course, there's a noise impact too, and other impacts that you have to assess there. You can't, again, like I said, you can't just say restripe and we're done.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Marianne, for that comment. Read somewhere about trucks on Prospect Torrance Boulevard. Background on this. This is, I meant to put this on the discussion topic. I forgot to. Thank you for reminding me. Next week, Monday, there is at the Public Works Commission, there is a meeting regarding truck routes and in South Redondo, coming into South Redondo. I will pull this email up because this is important. Give me a second. Public Works is going to discuss, and the history behind this is there are some residents that have been discussing traffic on PV Boulevard and Prospect. And there's been a significant increase in enforcement on PV Boulevard, so much so that 12% of all the tickets in the last year have been given out on PV Boulevard, specifically PV Boulevard and Prospect. Loud vehicles, speeding, not stopping at stop signs, traffic citations, unregistered vehicles, all these types of things have citations have been given out. 12%. There's thousands of miles. There's like 1,200, 1,300 miles of road in the city. This one little section of road has received a significant increase in enforcement, with both officers there, with putting vehicles there, putting up signboards, putting up radar guns, and the next thing that's kind of uncovered, residents have uncovered, is that the trucks are coming in from Torrance, and let me see if I can, this is an embedded picture. I have to save this picture real quick. And those trucks which are coming in are using PV Boulevard and going to the businesses on PCH, for instance, the stores. So the problem with that is Redondo Beach doesn't have a truck route there. And I'll tell you right now, city staff has looked at this, and I'm going to pull up this picture right now. Hopefully I can get to it really quickly. Minimize, that's fine. Public Works is going to be discussing this item next week at their commission meeting, and I got a lot more windows open than I should. Sorry. Let me see here if I can find this truck route. Enforcement. There it is. Okay, I'm going to show this screen here and share. So this is the truck routes in Redondo coming out of, that's the truck route. I don't know if you can see that. My computer is doing weird stuff. Running out of memory. Oh boy. That truck route, the truck route's dead end at City of Redondo, and they come in from PV Boulevard. And oops, I'm going to stop sharing because it's killing my computer. So they come in from Torrance and they end at Redondo where it's not a truck route. But there's no signage that says it's not a truck route. So these truck routes don't know. Or there is a sign that says this is not a truck route from here. But there's no way for them to turn around. And in working with City of Torrance, Torrance is saying, no, we're not going to change the truck route. But it doesn't make any sense for them to have the truck routes where they have. So we're asking to change the truck route over to Anza. And the problem with handing out tickets to these trucks is the courts will sit there and look at it and say, well, we have to provide the trucks a turnaround point or not provide a truck route to this area. And we're like, hey, listen, that's not us. It's City of Torrance that's providing this truck route, not us. We're not letting these trucks through here. So this become a real issue with jurisdictions. Now, I just want everyone to know that the trucks have been doing this for years. This is not a new thing. It's not like suddenly trucks have been started using PV Boulevard all the way through from Torrance all the way to the stores. This is something that's been happening for years, and it's been recently uncovered that this is not a truck route and trucks are coming through here and they shouldn't be using this. So what are our options to be able to enforce this? And so Public Works is having a discussion next week, Monday. Go to Public Works Commission meeting. It's an agendized topic, and you can go ahead and talk to them about this. I will be sending out an email on this. And so if you have any questions or comments on this, please let me know. Please let your neighbors know about this. I will be putting in the there it is in the chat for Zoom. That's the truck route I just put there. And you can go ahead and check that out. Go ahead and please comment, show up. And I'm just getting my chat online for Facebook. Sorry, drop that in there. And so just so you know, it's going to be a discussion topic for next week at the Public Works Commission. So come on down and talk about this. Let's see here. Any progress in the budget for a new police range on the Barrel new police station that has been in discussion for years? $50 million. It's probably more like $10 million to $15 million for a police shooting range on Barrel and PCH. You know, if we're going to start talking about money, the fire station number 2 on Grant and what is that? Fire station number 2 is on Grant. I know the cross street. Give me a second. I'll think about it. Regardless, that thing is falling apart. It's 60 years old. The fire station number 1 is over 60 years. The water is leaking through the roof. Broadway, that's fire station 1. It's on Broadway. That one's also falling apart. Anyways, point here is this. Manhattan Beach just built a brand new fire station 2. And that station cost $10 million. $9 million for construction and $1 million worth of design and other administrative fees. The city bonded $7 million. took $1 million, and they thought that would be enough. It wasn't. They had to use $1 million, $1.5 million right in there of COVID funds, and then another $1 million, roughly $1.5 million worth of general fund monies to cover the rest of that project. They just finished it. They started the project in 2017. They just finished it a few weeks ago, back in December, I think I want to say, January. It is a lot of, it's expensive to build, and ours are falling apart. The reason why we call them firehouses is because people live there. It's a firehouse. People live there. We do not have quarters for women to use restrooms separately. There's private quarters for all the firefighters, but there's no separate private quarters, bathrooms, shower facilities for women. Our fire stations are completely out of date. They're falling apart, out of date. I mean, they're 60 years old. And people have been talking about this. Last year, Councilmember Lonzi and I put a budget for a new roof, new windows, and a whole bunch of new stuff. But that shows are just, again, these are Band-Aids on a massive, massive problem that we have in the city, which is infrastructure. And it's something I've been talking about for a long time. Yes, that shooting range, Marianne, behind the dog park, that's the city shooting range they're talking about. The police department wants a brand new shooting range, indoor shooting range for $10 million. They said they're going to be able to get some grant money, but we do the environmental work and whatever else. But the thing is, that's not my area of focus. You know, plenty of other departments, Hermosa, Torrance, Manhattan, you know, don't have their own shooting ranges. They go out to areas to go shoot. Inglewood has a shooting range. They can go there and go shoot. They go Angeles Forest shooting range. Great shooting range up there. Angeles is a fantastic shooting range. They have a lot of other shooting ranges. LAX firing ranges, indoor firing range. Yes, it takes some time, takes extra time. They have mobile shooting ranges. Sheriff's has a mobile trailer, semi-truck that they drive around the county to all these sheriff stations, and they set it up, and they go in there and they do their qualification training for that. And then they have facilities, they do other type of training for that. So at the end of the day, to me, I think there's a lot of other things we can do other than spend $10 million on all the staff time for a new shooting range. And we're also being sued on that shooting range too. It's a whole other different conversation. But I also want to spend our money on, most importantly, not training our officers to shoot lethal weapons, using our officers to shoot non-lethal weapons, and methods and tactics to bring down the situation so they don't have to use guns or non-lethal weapons, and tactics that bring the specific term I'm looking for, that calm the situation down. And a lot of other cities utilize that training and are very successful at that training. I think when you use lethal force, you fail at all other methods as your method of last resort. So de-escalate. Thank you, Mr. Wayne Craig. That is the word I'm looking for. De-escalate. De-escalation is huge. LAPD does a lot of that training. So the sheriff's department does a lot of that training. Other departments do that as well. That lawsuit, Mr. Kim, has not been settled yet. It's at least been 10 years. There's been a lawsuit with the police firing range in Redondo Beach was shooting with lead bullets, and allegedly and supposedly those lead fragments were ending up in the school and areas nearby, which is hundreds of feet away. So when we talk about, you know, pickleball, loud noise, sound, guess what? The city of Redondo Beach was sued over that shooting range, and allegedly this lead was over in the schoolyard and other areas. I don't see that happening. I don't know how it happened, but guess what? We were sued. Is outdoor range, and by that lawsuit, it's still open. We're trying to come to a settlement agreement. It's still there. We've changed the ammunition that we use, we've changed the tactics, changed a whole bunch of stuff. But it's one of the problems when you have a shooting range is you bring on liability. That's liability is huge. We brought the police boat on in the harbor. It's liability. So it's something to think about in our community. Anyways, let's see here. Annika, you said yes, they would also pay for the courts of pickleball. Yes, they would, absolutely. Any other questions or comments that I've missed? Officers, Jill, that lawsuit was settled for millions of dollars, I'll say. That lawsuit you're talking about, thank God. Because the officers involved, I'm not going to talk about that. It's public knowledge, but I'm just not going to go down that path. Yeah, I don't believe they're working for the department anymore. So, any other comments? Where can you find that information? Public records requests. You can find the information, and nothing happened with the district attorney's office as well. So, yeah. All right. Any other comments? Any things I missed? Events, extravaganza, Easter's coming up. We have a big agenda, not too big of an agenda tomorrow night. Real quick, I know we're over time. I just want to, let's see here, completed invoice agenda pack. Let me go over my agenda real quick. I think we just have a couple items. We have a bunch of stuff on closed session, as usual. We have 18 items in the consent calendar, including a $1.3 million grant for the pallet shelter program to run the extended program for health with HealthNet. And let's see here, what else do we have? Veterans Park art exhibition to work with Friends of Redondo Beach Art. So art exhibition for Friends of the Park at the old library will be held in April. That's on the consent calendar. Let's see here. What else? Discussion for parking along Redondo and PCH, installation of public art on mural and a couple of public works locations and some other location, and a policy direction on SB 2230, which I talked about. Oh, that's the 2230 is differently. And then that's it. So there's only 4 items of discussion, not very big media items, actually. I'm kind of surprised by that. But we do have 18 items on consent calendar. I'm sure one of those are going to be. Oh, we do have a public hearing on community development block grant funding. So CDBG funding for federal funds to get a couple $100,000 a year. We can spend it how we want. That will be on the agenda for tomorrow night as a public hearing. Haven't looked at it. I'll be reading it. All right. Any other comments? I'm looking on Facebook. I don't see any comments. And I don't see anything. All right. Well, thank you guys very much for your time. I appreciate it. I will talk to you guys next month. Same time, same time at 9:30 in the morning. Senior at different place. Veterans Park Senior Center. So the general plan meeting. All right. Thank you guys very much. Enjoy. Have a great evening. Bye.